and then as well as 2 at-large seats on the city council. Thank you. And so we will be we'll be talking to the candidates for Ward 1 today. I want to go over the basic rules of engagement. I believe both of you maybe have participated in these before, so they're probably familiar. One of the things, and this is something to keep in mind since we only have 2, is that we still will maintain the platform of this being a forum and not a debate, which means that please respond to the questions, respond to the audience and to me, but not each other. That's just the way we do it all the way across the board. You are to, the opening remarks, I think we've explained this and gone over this, but there'll be 3 segments. There'll be opening remarks, and each of you will have 1 minute to do that. Then we'll move into the Q&A, and we should be able to proceed fairly quickly with that, but we should be able to get a good number of questions in. 60 seconds per answer. You have rebuttal cards that are available to you. You'll be able to do this twice to extend your remarks, but we'll do that and handle that at the end of each round. And then at the end, we will have, again, the summation for 60 seconds. We have a light system that we use that will let you know where you stand as far as the answers go. The yellow light comes on, that means you got 15 seconds to go. And what I would ask that you do is complete your sentence. That doesn't necessarily give you a chance to complete your thought, and I understand that. But in order to be fair, it's better just to complete your sentence, and then if you need to use the rebuttal card later on or something to extend, better to do it that way, to be fair for all concerned. So, if you have any questions about what we're doing here, if not, we'll just move forward. And I will go to you, Mr. Jackson, for the first question, and I will ask this. And I would like to get you both to talk specifically about campaigning and talking with people who live in Ward 1 for this question. And I'd like to know what Ward 1 residents are feeling about the direction. I'm sorry, you're right. That's what happens at the end of a long day. Let's do the opening remarks, and I'll ask you the question again. How about that?
No problem.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, opening remarks.
Hello. My name is Brian Jackson. I'm currently serving as the council member for Ward 1. I was raised in Jacksonville, and my mother's actually from Jacksonville. I am the son of a Marine, the brother of a retired Navy person. I served in the Navy myself, and I also watched my mother actually serve my brother and myself after my parents divorced by working on base in military uniforms. One of the things I also saw with her is the little things that people don't see. You know, picking up the lady that can't drive anymore, or just talking to them when they needed to be talked to. You know, she did things like work at the soup kitchen. She flashed a smile all around Jacksonville. She didn't need no title to do that. I myself don't need one.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Willingham.
Greetings. I'm thankful to the Chamber for this opportunity, and thankful to the moderators, and I welcome all of you who are in attendance tonight. I would like to give particular attention to some young ladies from my neighborhood. Ms. Carmen Spicer is working with the young girls, providing leadership, guidance, and mentorship. And I've even promised to teach them how to play tennis. I reside at 31 Kerr Street. After growing up in Jacksonville, I attended Howard University, concentrated on equal employment opportunity. I got my ticket back to Jacksonville by way of the Marine Corps, captain of the Marine Corps, officer in charge of Camp Geiger Legal Services. I'm currently with the Department of Defense. I've been with Defense for about 12 years. I give guidance and leadership to senior officers and on program management of equal employment opportunity. Thank you.
All right. And the only thing that will change, I'll do this question again, But we'll start with Mr. Willingham this time and go back. Again, with a focus on Ward 1, you've been out campaigning and talking with people in your area for a while. What are the residents there feeling about the direction that Jacksonville is heading?
It can vary, but I think the residents are concerned about their particular issues. One of the particular issues that you hear a lot about is the affordable housing. I championed affordable housing. If you can see the difference in the before and the after, when I get on city council, I think you would know that I'm the person who can address that with the ideas and the ability to be persuasive and build a consensus, because we claim I did this and I did that throughout our campaigns, and we need to do that to show you what we did. But if you can't build a consensus with council, if you can't work with every single council member who's up here, then you're not going to get much done. I've been able to do that. So it depends on the various areas. Bell Fork has always had a concern about the integrity of their community, their residential community, and they don't want things encroaching on that aren't compatible with their residential lifestyle. So it depends. Thank you.
All right. And
Ask the question
Mr.
again,
Jackson.
sir. Ask the question again.
Okay, I sure will. You've been out campaigning and talking with people in Ward 1 for a while now. What are city residents feeling about the direction that Jacksonville is heading?
Very concerned. Town center is the first concern, which brings up what my opponent said, the issue with affordable housing and the possible misplacement or not knowing where they're going to live, the people in town center. We're trying to address some things with the ownership as they come in to try to even find out what their plans are for the residents that are there in conjunction with the current owner. So that's a big concern. Another concern is, just like most folks, the streets. That's something that keeps coming up with me. We got to figure out a different way, despite the infrastructure, waiting for infrastructure money, how to move forward in trying to fix the streets. You know, so there are some things people said it was great to buy, you know, the 400 acres, but because of what we can do in the future concerning a multi-use complex. So those are some of the things that they talked about.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Willingham.
Mr. Jackson Councilman Jackson talked about the New River situation. My concern is this. He organized a protest or organized a protest against himself. He's the councilman. He's responsible for that. There are several steps that could have been taken in New River. One of them was Eagle Point, which we were considering right down the street from New River. That would have addressed, right during Hurricane Florence, affordable housing. Abundant Life was building that. And then I wouldn't pay millions of dollars for 400 acres before I addressed New River.
Okay. And Mr. Jackson.
The issue of affordable housing came up way before I even entered council. There were issues going on a long time before that wasn't addressed. So, you know, it's something that when you have a private ownership and we don't properly address it up front when it first happened, and you're not being intentional about how you're going to create affordable housing, you're going to have issues going forward with building it.
Okay. You only have two.
Okay.
And I'll give you guys heads up too that we're going to get back to the affordable housing issue if there was something that you'd like
I'll
to
wait
add to
then.
that. Okay. So we're going to go back to Mr. Jackson for the second question. What does Jacksonville have to offer that other similar-sized cities might not have, and what do other cities have that might be lacking here?
I think the things we do have to offer is our water, being this close to the beach, and also having a military presence here. You know, hopefully we can move forward with building a quality of issue. You know, helping address the quality issue. That's one of the big things I hear from the younger folks that's here. You know, I say a lot of times they reside here, but they live in Wilmington, they live in New Bern. They go outside the area to spend their money, and we got to figure out how to keep them in this area, but I think also we have to bring them to the table to have those conversations, to talk to them about why they leave. They may be here, they always say they'll never come back, and then they'll end up retiring, so they need to know they have a voice here. But I think quality of life is one of the big issues for why people leave. But we do have our outside of areas are nice, and a lot of people come here to enjoy those areas.
Mr. Willingham, the question is, what does Jacksonville have to offer that other similar-sized cities might not have? What do other cities have that might be lacking here?
Thank you. The two main things I would say are the location, the proximity to the beach. I think that we created the tourism authority. That was a wise move. We've been able to use those funds from hotel stays to benefit a lot of events. And so when people come here, if they can use this as a jump off, if you will, almost in every direction, I would joke about, you can reach a beach. You can go to Hammocks Beach, which is our cultural home for my community. You can go to Topsail. Lejeune has their beaches. You can go to Wilmington. Why not stay here and go to a different beach every day? And those are things that I pitch to tourism. So that's one thing. I think the economy is rock solid given the government. And I've experienced BRACs, base closings. In D.C., I've worked at bases that closed, and this one has a very good chance of being here with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Willingham, you will get the next question, which happens to be, as I promised. How would you assess housing in the city of Jacksonville, including the situation facing those who are looking to purchase or find affordable housing?
Okay. The housing market nationwide is pretty much a seller's market. It's good for sellers. It's problematic for buyers. In Jacksonville, the crisis that we have had recently was with the affordable housing. So that's not new. It's not new to me. We dealt with it downtown. Look at how we did that. We could have done this. We could do the same thing with New River. I wouldn't have spent the money on buying a bunch of woods, and I'm pro-recreation. We could do that. But I would have taken care of that first. And I understand by now some private entity may be buying it. But I would have taken care of that first. And the effort that we made to take care of it was Eagle Point. And I respected the people in that neighborhood. They had different opinions, okay. But my job is to not be swayed by emotion, but to be courageous and stand up, and that's what I tried to do. And yes, it was long time in development, but Brian wasn't around. He didn't come there to the meeting to stand up. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jackson. Any questions? Sure. How would you assess the housing situation in Jacksonville, including that situations that are facing those who are looking to purchase or find affordable housing?
It's a difficult situation all over the country, especially here because of the military. When it comes to the affordable housing issue, they say we're 1,400 units down. I think there's 72 that's going to be built into the commons, but regardless of that, we deal with the fact that we deal with these various economies. We have those who work on the base and make money from being on the base, and those that work out in retail. They're not connected to the military. And a lot of times, BEQ is used to actually decide what the rents are here. So even though you know, some of those other houses will eventually go online for those that can afford it, but going into the future, if we don't become intentional with doing affordable housing, then we're going to have a big problem concerning homelessness, and it can affect other things in the community.
Okay, and Mr. Jackson, you get first crack at this question. What do you see as the future of downtown Jacksonville? What are the hurdles that must be crossed before the downtown area reaches its full potential?
I think with the right visionary leadership, we can actually start creating a nice downtown environment, but we're going to have to make it kind of be more inviting to businesses to come here. They have to know why they should come here. You know, we have to sell the idea of a Jacksonville downtown. downtown is usually the heartbeat of any community. So we have to find out how to create that heartbeat instead of not having a pulse downtown. There are people that don't even know that or don't recognize the military and what the potential is with the young people here. So we got to find a way to attract businesses that come downtown that will build on the quality of life here, so the young people will stay here instead of going to different places outside of our community for entertainment.
Mr. Willingham.
Thank you. When Ms. Barbara Eichner was on the County Commissioners and Paul Buchanan, we had a committee consisting of them, myself, and Mayor Pro Tem Michael Lazar. We worked on the project for downtown commercial redevelopment. It was almost there, then they didn't get, Ms. Eichner didn't get reelected. But I've been putting forward the plans for downtown redevelopment. It's very simple. You can close 3 blocks of Court Street. You continue with the landscaping that you have in Riverwalk Crossing. You fashion it. You can go and look at Lincoln Road in South Beach, Miami. And you fashion it with alfresco dining. Wouldn't that have been great during the pandemic? But outdoor dining, and they're dining on the streets. We have Biagio's down there. We have other Elsie's, and these businesses are doing okay. But it doesn't require a bunch of government money to close a street that you already own.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Willingham, you get the next question. Staffing is becoming more of a concern at many levels of local government, including law enforcement. I would like to talk specifically about law enforcement, if you will. What are some of the ways that Jacksonville can improve its position as a potential employer?
Well, everybody's going to say raise your wages. I would rather land on the side of quality of life. If we can make, you mentioned police officers, we can make the policing experience. There doesn't need to be an adversarial relationship between policing and the communities. It doesn't have to be that way. If we can make it better in terms of quality of life, we could do some of the same things that I have suggested for development. I think it'll make it a better quality of life. But, you know, everybody can say wage increase and pay people more. But if you make their job easier, I think that's an attraction also. Over.
Okay, and Mr. Jackson?
Often wages are the first thing that's brought up. And unfortunately, a lot of times we cannot keep up with the surrounding areas. But like my opponent said, we do have to address quality of life. Because if we're going to have to work in a different direction, because we will never be able to keep up with the base in terms of wages. We actually do a great in terms of training, but we train them for other organizations outside of the area. So we're going to have to find something to be more attractive. I know there was understanding there might be programs to start more with the children in terms of getting them involved with the idea of policing, you know, trying to change the idea of what policing has been, especially recently. So we're going to have to work be forward thinking in terms of what the idea and what the mindset is concerning policing. Get more into community policing, where there's a direct connection between those that work in the community and those that live in the community.
Okay, and Mr. Jackson, you'll get first crack at this question. The city's recent purchase of 400 acres of land in the Williamsburg area has opened the door for many possible uses, including a recreation complex, as has been talked about before. How would you like to see that property develop?
Well, first of all, it has to address our recreation needs. I was out at Georgetown Park yesterday, and I seen 2 young men out there with several age groups of children actually doing basketball practice, and they basically go wherever they can go. So we definitely need indoor facilities. dealing with recreation, but we have to consider public-private partnerships, I think, as we go forward. We're going to consider the whole community. With the ad hoc committee, we're actually going and speaking to different groups, but I think there needs to be more facilitated workshops so we can put things on board so we can work within the community and see what direction that the community is leaning into. I've talked to private ownerships that they are also, our business community do want to move forward with a multi-use facility. And if we can do that, we can keep a whole lot of money in here. Just during the October, November timeframe, we lose all our balls, and we need to keep those in the city.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Willingham, was talking about the recent purchase of 400 acres of land in the Williamsburg area. Open the door for many possible uses, including a rec complex, as some have suggested. How would you like to see that property developed?
Thank you. I wouldn't mind something really significant and special, a mega facility there, but I don't think we can lose track of our neighborhood facilities. One of the reasons that Jacksonville, Jack Amyette has the most impressive baseball stadium is because I insisted that we can't do everything at Jacksonville Commons at one central facility, and that we need to concentrate on the communities that may feel that they've been neglected. And so you ended up with that beautiful baseball stadium, the splash pads. We could have a water feature in Williamsburg, but these area splash pads, the way we got them is because when I traveled, when I went to conferences, I talked to vendors, and the vendor that I talked to actually did the installation. And so when you are creative and you can bring ideas like that, you can do things that are helpful to the area communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And you get the first crack at this question. There continues to be, and this is going to dovetail off of what we just talked about, there continues to be public discussion related to the future construction of a larger event center, conference center. What are your views about that idea? What should be the city's role, if any, in making that project a reality?
I'd like to see a county partnership with private business and the city. Maybe some name leasing like they do at stadiums around the country. We can talk about downtown redevelopment. We can talk about redeveloping these communities in Georgetown. They're not income draining. They make money. Look at all the money that we made from downtown and the property taxes, okay? So those things make money. When you're talking about these venues, they can be dicey. They might not make money. So you have to be prepared to accept that. And if you can spread the risk with the county and the private sector, I think you can alleviate some of that concern. But I'm all for it. I don't see why smaller towns sometimes can host the North Carolina League of Municipalities. That's the conference that we attend to lobby for state action. And we can't host it because we don't have a facility. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Repeat the question again.
I sure will. There continues to be a lot of public discussion related to the future construction of a larger event center, maybe a conference center. What are your views on that idea? What should be the city's role, if any, if making that project a reality?
Again, and I agree with Mr. Willingham, is that it's going to need to be public-private partnership. We even talked in one of our Recreation and Parks Department committee meetings about getting naming rights. You know, we want to make sure that we have tourism, sports commission, private industry, everybody at the table to make the decision, and actually to be able to provide funding for that. I think if we actually become intentional about doing it, we could stop a lot of drain of what happens with our young people and other people, I say, and even currently, the retirement age, they go out of town for entertainment. If we can actually do this the right way, it could bring a whole lot of tax money into the city. But we have to do it and get the right people at the table to get it done.
Okay. let me go to you. We'll have the first shot at this, Mr. Jackson. About 5 years ago, Jacksonville launched a campaign aimed at improving discourse and relationships among city residents. How would you assess the progress that has been made in those areas?
I think it was a good idea to bring faith-based leaders together, but there is unofficial people out in the communities that need to be brought together as well. And a lot of churches are not reaching outside of their walls, and that's something that is actually brought up. So if that's not happening, if something do actually take place, and that's why the faith-based group was created, then the mark might be missed. I know when we started having protesting, there were young people brought in, and the direction of the protest subsided, but still in the minds of the other people that left here, it wasn't felt that the faith-based community was in communication of them. We do have great leaders within the community. I'll never say that, but we need to find a way to work together, not just with the faith-based community, but as a whole, as a community.
Okay, Mr. Willingham.
I think it was a outstanding product, an outstanding effort. I was around when we launched the Caring Community slogan, and I think the effort that the mayor made with that was impressive, bringing the faith-based community together. I know my pastor, Dr. Cicerone, participated and brought along St. Julian Zion Church, Freedom Church. And so I think it was good. It was a good effort to bring the community and the police together because, like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be an adversarial relationship. And trust me, I know what that is because I was involved in litigation to bring about fair policing in our communities. But we need the police. I'm so glad we have Chief and Director Yanero. He has made a big difference, and he wasn't here when we did that lawsuit.
Okay. Well, we can actually launch right into another question related to public safety. And I'd like to know from the both of you, what are your reflections on the public safety in Jacksonville, and what can the city do to address any concerns that you might have? Mr. Willingham.
You know, it's policing can be such a firecracker. You might think everything is copacetic, and then you're just one moment away from a rash decision that can devastate a city. So when you talk about the One City effort, that's how that connects, because you can establish these relationships. And we had law enforcement officers come into our church to talk about things during the George Floyd. But we have to be courageous in the communities too. And when we see things that aren't appropriate, we have to bring it to the right attention. And I just think that if we use our processes, if something needs to be addressed in the legal context, we use that process. But in the meantime, it's how we relate to one another. For example, with the One City.
Thank you. And Mr. Jackson, I'll read you the question again. I'd like to know what your reflections are on public safety in Jacksonville, and what can the city council do to address any concerns that you may have?
You know, I think Chief Yanero does an outstanding job. He's big on community policing. I think we just need to communicate more about that, and we have to get more people on the street. I know I think we're 9 people down now, but I know it definitely affected when we took a hit earlier by the members that had dropped off. We got the opioid issue, and that's huge. It's not just opioid, it's addiction issue, period. And Chief Yanero is huge in working towards a 24-hour facility, because a lot of times we have individuals that that end up going to facilities and they might stay for 3 days and then directly back on the street. And those that aren't in the one-day facilities, a lot of times they're going to be at the hospital taking up beds. But we're going to have to address some of those other issues concerning our public safety. I think we have a great police force. I think we got a great chief, but we have to have more communication between the community and the police force.
Okay, all right, thank you. Let me go to another issue here about, and Mr. Jackson, you'll be first here. The aesthetics of Jacksonville have long been a concern, as long as I've lived here. And there have been a number of major projects that have improved the city's visual impression in recent years. What do you think, what more do you think can be done and needs to be done to improve Jacksonville's appearance?
You know, that's tough because a lot of times I'm hearing we have a huge problem with actually starting businesses here. And part of that issue is going to deal with, do they have brick businesses, brick fronts, or can we do metal structures, you know, or what kind of changes that can occur, or do we change some of the, you know, the current buildings to match the newer ones coming online? I think it comes down to a private business wanting to actually work with the community to actually keep it more uniform in that way. But, you know, it's a difficult idea to actually, you know, we've been addressing slum and blight, that's for sure. But then we have to go forward in terms of building, and that's going to take funds coming from private organizations. So.
Okay, Mr. Willingham.
As far as the aesthetics of Jacksonville, I was on the Beautification Appearance Commission in the 80s. That's how long I've been at it. And it didn't take my sitting in the seat in order for me to get busy. When you first enter Jacksonville, before you cross the New River, that area was the most unsightly area, and it looked like there was nothing we could do. But when Dr. Woodruff came, and I was instrumental in his hiring, and we developed the Clean and Green, we took care of it, and you see the result. Jacksonville Landing, look how beautiful, look how many boats are launched there. That's such a nice facility. And so it takes leadership. You know, not sitting in a seat, it takes leadership. You have to have the ideas, and you have to be able to bring them to fruition. When I talk about downtown commercial redevelopment, that's a beautification issue. Thank you.
Okay. And you were next here for the next question. I'd like to know what your views are on Jacksonville's economy. Is the city reaching its potential in terms of retail development and job growth? When I started getting involved in politics in the 80s, 88, every single candidate said, I'm going to bring jobs to Jacksonville and high-paying jobs. I never said that. Jacksonville's economy is based on Camp Lejeune Marine Corps Base. That is a blessing, okay? That's not a disadvantage. We have to be a better host to the Marine Corps Base, and we do that with our tourism. We do that with our hotels. We bought the Howard Johnson complex at 17 and 24 at Court Street. It's vacant. We haven't done anything all these years. We did do public safety station, but you don't want that to be your commercial downtown. Courthouse, you don't want that to be commercial downtown. We did Sturgeon City, beautiful. And I played a leadership role in that. But we can develop these areas, and it's not that expensive to do what we need to do. Thank you. And I'll ask you, Mr. Jackson, what are your views on Jacksonville's economy? Is the city reaching its potential in terms of retail development and job growth?
You know, the issue is that we have retail and we're getting a lot of tax base from retail, but the problem is with, you know, those jobs aren't allowing people to actually stay in affordable housing. You know, if you're not connected to, going back to that, if you're not connected with the base, you're not being able to afford the way you're staying. You know, they say 30% of your income, if it goes over 30% of your income, to pay your bills for your housing, and your electricity, you're not living in an affordable house. So we have retail, and we do great in terms of money's coming in from it. But when it comes to job training and stuff of that nature, we're going to have to find something different. I know that the county is actually working with DOD to try to get access to the base railroad, but that's been difficult, and we don't know how long that's going to take. But that would offer an opportunity concerning maybe possible having other ways to move business,
Okay.
stuff out of this
Mr.
area.
Willingham, I believe you want to extend your remarks.
Okay, with respect to retail, we, no disrespect to Jacksonville Mall, but to me, we could have a better mall town center complex. Maybe they could invest in it. But there's certainly a deficit there. When we annexed Camp Lejeune and got the numbers, that is when you saw every franchise imaginable in Jacksonville. And that was a forward-thinking council that did that. So there is a deficit of retail, I think. But I think downtown will help too.
Okay. Well, actually, we've exhausted, well, no, we got one more question. I do have one more that I saved to last because it's a major task that'll be facing the next city council, which is hiring a replacement for Dr. Woodruff. What are some of the qualities and background that the city should be looking for in its next city manager?
Very well.
You get a chance to start, Mr. Willingham.
I think that it's important that we have someone with a development background. We've had economic development commissions since time immemorial, and it was even it was competition between the county and the city. The city has to be concerned with its own economic development. So someone with that kind of background. I was instrumental in bringing Dr. Woodruff here. It made a tremendous difference to our progress in this city. The number of buildings that were dilapidated structures that we had torn down was record-setting and award-receiving. So having someone with his skill, I think, is important. And I think that when we did the recruitment for him, it was pretty much national. So I don't think we need to limit the geography. And he's, I'm sure, prepared people in-house, but that's mine.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, you get the final shot at this, which is I'm asking about the task of replacing Dr. Woodruff. What do you think some of the qualities and background that the city should be looking for in its next city manager?
I often told Dr. Woodruff he was one of the smartest people I've ever sat in the room with. He's done some great things here. I think he organized Jacksonville in a better manner than previous managers might have done. But I think we should have a visionary. Has to be someone that could see a greater Jacksonville. Has to look at all of us in terms of the potential based on, we've been losing a lot of people. I call it brain drain. People leaving, military leaving, people that grow up here leaving. We got to try to figure out how do we keep people here, and what is making people leave, what is going to attract people to stay, as well as bring them in here. We need somebody that's going to be able to listen to the council and work with the council, and also be able to listen to their employees and challenge their employees to come up with ideas to move things forward. They're the people on the ground, and they should have the opportunity, hopefully they can help build the city going forward.
Well, thank you. And congratulations, we worked through all of my questions. So we'll move right into closing, and I believe Mr. Jackson started, so Mr. Willingham, you will have the first crack at the closing statement.
Very well, and I didn't greet the TV audience, and I would like to close by mentioning the TV audience and thank you for watching, and I'm proud to be able to say that it was my idea to start televising city council meetings. Feel it and fix it. Feel it. Empathy is one of the most important emotions for me, even more so than love. People can love you and not treat you so well. But empathy means you feel that person's condition, where they are, and you don't want it to recur, you don't want it to happen to others, so you get involved. It involves some action. But feeling it, and I got you, and I'll get back to you, and spinning people is not enough. You have to have a plan, you have to have leadership. Leadership chose Dr. Woodruff. Leadership got downtown redevelopment. Leadership said, we need a full-time attorney. My fight, my battle, look what we got, John Carter. Look at the service that he's provided. And so, okay.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Mr. Jackson.
You know, it was my pleasure to serve up to this moment. This is always my pleasure to serve wherever I am. You know, I've learned the limitations of government and the limitations of one person in government. I always say when you turn back the curtain, it's a whole lot bigger deal than when you see it on the other side. I have a greater appreciation of how the collection of community and community partners can positively impact the positive well-being of those that they assist. I also understand that you don't know you will be blamed, so if government doesn't have a solution and there is no other way currently to solve the issue, we have to remember that a human being is on the other end of your answer. So compassion and empathy should be used in giving the answer. My name is Brian H. Jackson, and I would like you to re-elect me to be your city councilman, Ward 1. Thank you.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate you adhering to the time limits. I believe you're the first group that we've had that got to every question.
Ward
so,
1.
Very good. And I would like to say also, Kelsey Stiglitz does a great job with our timer.
Thank you.
And thanks. Florette.
Yes. Gentlemen, thank you for